Welcome into The Voice Behind the Voice. I'm Sean Aronson, the TV and radio broadcaster for the St. Paul Saints, an independent minor league baseball team in the Twin Cities. Before we get to what's going on with the Saints and what's been going on and coming up in general, notice how I didn't say episode number. Remember I told you last week, there is no new episode this week. We've run out of them. That's it. I've got none for this week. I will have a new episode next week, however, so fret not. You only have to go 1 week without a new episode. But this week we will play a rebroadcast of an episode that I chose for a specific reason, and we'll get to that in just a moment. We are down to the final 20 regular season games for the St. Paul Saints. A big, gigantic, monumental series this past weekend. A 4-game series against the team we were chasing for first place. Took 3 out of 4. So with 20 games to go, we are tied for first place. We are a game and a half ahead of the third place team, and it's the top 2 teams in each division that get into the playoffs. So right now, sitting, I don't want to say pretty, but happy to be in the position that we're in right now. We've got 6 games left on this homestand. The last 2 games in this homestand are against that third place team that I mentioned. So far from over. I will say this, though. The schedule plays out favorably in that other than those 2 games against that third place team, every other game that we play the rest of the way, the other 18 games, all against teams below 500. Those teams still tough, but if the Saints don't make the playoffs, they're going to have no one to blame but themselves. One other thing for you, and I'm hoping this goes viral. I'm hoping this takes off. It really should. But I'm coming to you on Monday, and when I usually record these, on Tuesday. So the day this drops, and if you listen to it on Tuesday, then hopefully you can look for this on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. But we're doing a promotion that I think has a chance to really take off. It is the 40th anniversary of the movie Animal House. 1978 is when the movie came out, the cult classic. And there is a scene in there, and it's a very brief scene. I always thought it was longer than it was, but going back and looking at it, it really is. Maybe it's a 5-second scene, if that. But where John Belushi's character basically starts a food fight in the cafeteria. So we thought, how could we honor the 40th anniversary of Animal House? We are going to recreate that scene with a ballpark-wide food fight on Tuesday night, and I can't wait to see 8,000 people throwing stuff at each other. We've got powdered donuts, we've got marshmallows, we've got popcorn, and then really the one piece of food that's going to make the mess for everyone, mashed potatoes. We're also allowing people, if you want to buy stuff from the concession stands, obviously not beverages and not anything that's hot. They can buy whatever they want and throw them at people, and everybody that walks through the gates will receive a poncho. But this has a chance to get not just messy, but really be a humorous visual that we're going to obviously post on social media, and hopefully this takes off. So I can't wait for this. This is the one promotion that I thought all year long had the opportunity to kind of get us that national publicity. We'll see. Although this league got national publicity, I believe it was now a week ago, in which one of the players in this league decided to put a trash can in the area of a home plate umpire, and that went viral pretty quickly. So with that, let's get to this week's episode. So I was thinking about, all right, well, which one do I want to replay? And I realized, look, not everybody's listened to all 125 of these episodes. And I went back to episode number 6, and it was actually the second episode that I recorded. So the first one that I ever recorded was Bob Kurtz, the voice of the Minnesota Wild. And as I was trying to get this podcast started, most of the interviews that I did, the first few interviews I did were local guys. They were the easiest ones to get. And then if you remember, and many of you probably don't, but shortly after I started this and I recorded those 2, and I hadn't gone live yet, I was in Vegas. And so I was able to record, I think, 3 episodes in Vegas, and that's what started, that kind of initial wave of episodes that I released. But episode number 6 was Paul Allen of the Minnesota Vikings. And again, it being the second episode that I recorded. So I did Bob Kurtz, I do Paul Allen, and this is where I realized I had something. Number one, Paul Allen, very, very well known in this area. People either love him or hate him. Again, I don't understand the hatred for it, but whatever. But he's a passionate Minnesota Vikings broadcaster and fan. But at the very end of this podcast, he pays me one of the most extreme compliments that I've received in all the episodes that I've done. And again, the second one that I recorded, and I realized I have something here. When a guy of Paul Allen's stature pays me the extreme compliment that he does at the very end of this, I knew that I've got something. And on top of that, I was able to get him to reveal what he would say if the Vikings were ever to win a Super Bowl. And again, I'm not aware of him saying this, like, ever to anyone. I talked to a lot of people. No one had ever heard it before. But I realized that at that point in the interview, when we were sitting down and chatting, that I had made Paul Allen feel comfortable enough that he could tell I had done my research, that he was willing to divulge maybe this piece of information that he's had in the back of his mind for a long time with very little prompting. And that was the purpose of this podcast, to get these broadcasters to feel comfortable, be in a comfortable setting, and just talk about their life and talk about who they are and just kind of riff with me. And so again, it was really after that second recording that I felt like I've got something. So if you haven't listened to it, please feel free to listen to this. If you have listened to it, it's worth going back and listening to again. But I completely understand if you don't want to. Like I said, next week I will have a new episode. And we may stagger these just like this for the next foreseeable future. Again, I try to get these guys as they come into town, but it's got to be, where the Saints schedule is, and I have to be able to land these interviews. So be patient with me over the next few weeks as we roll to the end of the season. If you've not subscribed to the podcast, you can do so on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. You can also follow us on social media, Twitter @TheVoiceBTV, Facebook, facebook.com/TheVoiceBTV. You can always email me, thevoicebtv@gmail.com. All right, let's get to it. It is, or was, episode number 6 with Paul Allen. You'll hear some familiar music that we started this podcast with and then had to do away. We may bring it back, though. So with that, it's Paul Allen. JW! Roll the open. A couple of years from now, U.S. Bank will host a Super Bowl. Have you ever let your mind wander to what it would be like to call a Super Bowl winning moment for the Vikings? Do you let your mind wander?
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm going to say. I know the word that I'm going to use. I'll share it with you.